Hello everyone, I'm Mei from Team 44. I will be demonstrating our multi-source political social data pipeline focused on the cluster infrastructure. Let me start by showing our high-level architecture. Our project collects political discourse data from three major platforms, Mastodon, Reddit, and Blue Sky, focused on Australian political topics. We process this data through three main layers. The first one is data collection, second is aggregation and storage, third one is NLP and analyzers. All this deployed as serverless functions on Kubernetes. Now it's time to look at our actual cluster environment. I have done this port forward a few minutes ago for this demonstration. And for the second terminal, I run the watch command to display the status for our Kubernetes in the real time. So we can see all of our deployed pods running on Kubernetes, including our fission functions, Elasticsearch for data storage, and Redis for message queuing. We have followed the teaching team's guidance to set up this environment. In the third terminal, here, we can examine our fission resources. I have run fission function list, fission package list, etc. As you can see, we have three categories of functions. It's better we can see here package list because it have the better format. Cool, we have three categories of functions: harvester to collect data from social platforms, processor to transform the data, and analysis components that extract insights, like this, with the specified 39x plus environment. This is for NLP task. We will introduce them later. Cool. For time trigger and HTTP route trigger, all functions implement at least one of these methods, with many supporting both. So we have two methods to call these functions. One is through the time schedule and one is through the menu triggers. And some functions scale from 1 to 3 instances, as you can see here, depending on the load, with our NLP functions running in the Python 39x Plus environment. As you can see, this customer environment with additional NLP capabilities is designed for advanced tasks supporting using like the PyTorch and transformer from the Hugging Face. We use our customized developed Docker imagine to deploy this specified environment, as you can see here. Cool. Let's examine how data flows through our system. Yes, let's take Mastodon for an example. We use time triggers that run every 5 minutes to harvest new content from social platform. For example, our Mastodon harvester connects to the Mastodon API and collects posts with configured hashtags. When new data arrives, it's placed in Redis queue. Kata will take charge of dynamic scaling, where you can see our message queues for raw data. This allows for asynchronous processing and provides fault tolerance. In the processing phase here, message queue triggers detect new data and pass it to processor functions that standardize the data format. Here we extract a relevant field and prepare the data for indexing. We can take a look at our Redis insight page. Because we almost process the raw data and ingest to the indexer in real time. So we also have the error list. That's why we say that we have the fault tolerance. Cool. Now, our data model is critical to enabling cross-platform analysis. That's why we have this unified index. We have designed a unified document structure that standardizes data from different platforms. We have for each document, which contains core content and metadata like creation time and language, author information, including username and follower count, engagement matrix, platform-specific fields we need, like the subreddit, and also political metadata fields that get filled by our analytic components. Let's see this in action in Elasticsearch. Let's switch to Kibana. Here's our social post index with the mappings we defined before. Notice how data from a different platform appear in the same format, allowing us to analyze it consistently. For example, we can tap political, metadata is political to set to true and refresh our data. And for example, we can see that's aligned to the index we mentioned before. And we can also use this timeline because we have some limited of the API, so we start this task as early as possible. Cool. What makes our pipeline powerful is analytic layers. Here, we have built 4 specialized components. We have done the first one, content classification, because we just want the political related data, right? When we're done for this task, we run parallels for 3 other NLP tasks. First one is sentiment analysis, and second one is topic extraction, then is party mention detection. All of this task is highly related to our well-designed research questions. These components enrich our data with additional fields in Elasticsearch, enabling complex queries about political discourse. To summarize our key achievements, we have built a scalable serverless architecture for collecting political social media data. Our unified data model enables cross-platform analysis. The NLP components extract valuable insights from raw text. The entire pipeline operates automatically with minimal intervention. The system is resilient to failures with comprehensive error handling. This infrastructure enables researchers and analysts to track political discourse across multiple platforms and gain insight into Australian political sentiment and trending topics. Thank you for watching my part. Let's hand it to Charles.
Sure. So this is our Jupyter front-end notebook for the assignment. I've got Sendwell driving for me because I am from afar. But the first thing we need to do when we load the Jupyter notebook is go to install and import. So if we do that, it will initialize our environment. There's this beautiful GIF by Sendwell. Then that loads everything. The next thing we need to do is just do a health check for Elasticsearch. Thank you, Sendwell. And then that'll tell us, yep, so it shows us our shards or our active shards. We can see that the status is green. Then we can see which indices we have access to in Elasticsearch. So here we can see, yep, we've got all of them open at the moment. All of them are green. On top of that, we're just going to look at social posts, which Sendwell highlighted. So it's 163,000 features, not features, pardon me, posts that are involved. So what we can do now is we can search posts and we can go from one date range to another date range, look for keywords on any of the 3 platforms or all 3. So let's look up Trump. People say he's important in this election. Let's look up, we'll start with just Mastodon for now. And we'll do, let's say the 1st of May to the 10th of May. Perfect, thank you, Sendwell. And then our minimum and maximum sentiment we'll just keep to -1 and to 1, because that includes the whole range. Hopefully there's not too many records. Yeah, 217. So there's a fair few. As we get more records, our Jupyter notebook can start to struggle a little bit. But we can take the unified ID, like Sendwell's doing now, it's highlighting unified ID, and we can go to our next functionality, and we can fetch that post, that specific post. So we'll do that now, and then we'll come back. Yep, search that. Yeah, so there's no ha 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 with Trump, so that helps us just clear up our environment a little bit. So we can fetch the post that we're looking at, the Mastodon post. Oh, there we go. And then we can see each of the fields that we have recorded for that post. If we go back just quickly to the search, we can also try looking up Trump and then haha as well, just one haha. We'll do all three platforms, and we'll do maybe the 1st of May until let's say the 4th of May. Let's see if we get any hits in that range. Yep, so 3 hits, and we can see those there and investigate each one of them if we wanted to. So we'll demonstrate it working on a Reddit comment. There we go. And that's all the information and where it can be accessed. Fantastic. So here we can query the candidates. Now, this isn't using our advanced NLP functions. This is just directly searching for Anthony Albanese, Peter Dutton, Adam Bant, where they're mentioned in their full name form. So here we can see Anthony Albanese is mentioned the most, Peter Dutton mentioned a little bit less, and then Adam Bant significantly less. And we can have a look if that differs from our NLP functions that we generated later. So we can look at the post topic, and now we can look at Blue Sky. And we can see which topics have been recognized by our NLP functions to be mentioned the most frequently in the post content. So we can see on Blue Sky, the most important is environment, followed by the economy and Indigenous affairs, which are tied for second, roughly. So a little bit of a different focus compared to Reddit, where it's economy and housing as the 3 major. Yep, environment, economy, housing. Correct. Cool, thank you. And then we can just check Mastodon while we're here because it's interesting. And we'll see environment, Indigenous affairs, and economy as the top 3. Housing is number 5. So we can kind of see how the platforms are talking about slightly different issues by platform. Cool. Do you want to continue? So we can see which Reddit posts are the most commented on or generated the most engagement. So let's see the top 10, and we can add a tag to say only political posts. Yep, and then we can see that post. And then if we wanted to, we could look at the post ID and go back and query that. But we're just going to keep moving for now. We can also see it's quite positive, the sentiment of one of those. That's interesting. Anomalous, but yeah, interesting stuff. We can look at some of our research questions now. So we'll just run some of these rapid fire without going into the data too much. So there's the platform stats. Show platform stats. So we can see Reddit has the most posts that we collected, but the lowest average sentiment, whereas Mastodon had the least post and moderate average sentiment comparative to the other 2. Blue Sky with the most, or the high, sorry, not the most, a moderate number of posts compared to the other 2, but the highest average sentiment. We'll just scroll down. I don't think we have time for analysis. So which parties are mentioned the most on Blue Sky, Reddit, and Mastodon? Are certain parties mentioned more on certain platforms? We can see that both in a table and in a graph here. This is live data. We can move on to the next one. I don't think we need to analyze these. We can pick a date range here. So that's just the date range of our harvest. And we can see average sentiment over that date range per day. We can see, I think that's the 3rd of May, isn't it? Do you want to quickly check, Sinwell? That is the highest average sentiment. And that was just after the historic landslide Labour victory. We can reduce the range to show a little bit more granular of a picture. There we go. And yeah, again, we can see 3rd of May, where lots and lots of posts and lots of very positive posts as well. Fantastic. Do you want to move on to question 4? So we'll look at how many times the parties are mentioned. So we can see that the coalition is mentioned the most frequently, but also with the most negative average sentiment, followed by Labour in terms of the number of mentions, followed by the Greens, followed by the others, which includes the minor parties and the independents in this case. And notably, there is almost this zigzag where, despite having a lot more mentions, the Labour Party has a more positive average sentiment than, say, the Greens. And most positive of all is the others. This is quite interesting because it kind of tracks the outcome of the election where the independents and minor parties gain seats, and Labour gain seats, whereas the coalition and the Greens both lost seats. We'll move on to question 5. You can cut that if we run out of time. Okay, and here we just had a simple hypothesis. We actually assumed that users that made more posts would be more negative on average, but the data seems to show that there seems to be no relationship. The average sentiment is relatively similar to the average sentiment of the platforms in general. And we can see those blue bars represent the range of sentiment. So there are quite a few quite positive posters. There are some that have a wider range, some that have a smaller range of posts. And yeah, that's our top 10 super posters who are posting the most content. And on average, they're about the same as the average poster on these platforms from our sample. Cool. Is that everything we need to show, Sinwell?